Disclaimer: this program contains graphic descriptions of real crimes. Viewer discretion is advised. All parties are presumed innocent until proven guilty in court. Banker disappears into thin air. His family never expected this. What if the person you trusted most, the one who kissed you good night, who promised to keep your family safe, was hiding a secret so devastating it would only come to light after his death? For 6 agonizing days, his wife and children searched for him, clinging to hope, and when they finally found him, it wasn't in a hospital or on some distant trip. It was in a locked vault, surrounded by the fortune he never told them about. This is the haunting story of Victor Mallory, a banker who lived a double life. Victor appeared flawless to the outside world, a sharp banker, respected by colleagues, a man who never made mistakes. But to his wife, Elaine, and their 2 children, Emma and Daniel, he was cold and distant. He gave them money, but not warmth. What they didn't know was that Victor had been quietly building a secret fortune, offshore accounts, investments, cash tucked away in places no one could find. At the heart of it all was the old underground vault beneath Harrington & Co., a chamber long forgotten by most, but kept alive by Victor's obsession with control. One Wednesday night in late October, surveillance cameras captured Victor entering the bank's basement. He never came back out. The next morning, his office sat untouched, his car still parked, his phone dead. Elaine filed a missing persons report. Police scoured his life, uncovering hidden accounts and assets. But one detail stood out. The last place Victor was seen alive was near that vault. 6 days later, detectives returned to the bank. Employees had complained of a smell seeping through the vents. The vault door was sealed shut. As the wheel began to turn, the heavy iron groaning, no one could have prepared for what was inside. When the door opened, the air was heavy, sour, suffocating. Victor Mallory was slumped against the wall, lifeless. His once sharp suit soaked with sweat, his skin pale and bloated. Surrounding him were stacks of cash, gleaming gold bars, and documents linking him to millions in hidden assets. The vault had preserved his wealth, but it had devoured him. Elaine collapsed when she saw what her husband had been hiding. Emma screamed through tears, "He loved this more than us." Daniel sank into silence, haunted by the thought that his father had chosen money over blood. The family wasn't just grieving, they felt betrayed. Had Victor meant to vanish? Was this a mistake? Or had someone locked the door behind him? Detectives called it an accident, dehydration and exhaustion after being trapped inside. But the vault told a darker story. Scratches marred the inner walls. Victor had clawed at the door in desperation, and on the outer handle. Fingerprints. They weren't Victor's. Had someone else been there that night? The vault required 2 codes, Victor's and someone else's, a colleague, a rival, or even a family member. No one was ever charged. The fingerprints were partial, the evidence inconclusive, but suspicion tore the Mallorys apart. Elaine withdrew, Emma cut ties, Daniel spiraled. The hidden fortune sparked lawsuits, government claims, and bitter fights over what remained. Victor believed secrecy gave him power. He thought his hidden wealth would protect him. Instead, it buried him alive. Today, the vault beneath Harrington & Co. is sealed once more, but to those who remember, it isn't just steel and iron. It's a coffin, a reminder that sometimes the walls we build to protect our fortune become the walls that destroy us. Previously, we uncovered how Victor Mallory, respected banker, was found dead inside a locked vault, surrounded by millions he had hidden from his family. What police first called a tragic accident soon raised darker questions. Because on the outside of that vault door were fingerprints that didn't belong to Victor. Detectives seized on the clue. The vault required 2 codes to override its lock. Victor's code was used, but so was another. Who had been with him that night? who had touched that handle. The prints were partial, smudged. Forensics couldn't match them to anyone in the system, but suspicion settled quickly over those closest to Victor. Elaine, his wife, was questioned first. She swore she knew nothing about the vault or the hidden fortune, but investigators noted the obvious. If Victor's money was legally tied to him, Elaine would inherit it all. Motive or coincidence, Emma, his eldest, admitted she resented her father's coldness, but denied ever knowing where he kept his wealth. Still, detectives couldn't ignore her anger when she shouted in the interview room, "He cared more about money than about us." Daniel, the youngest, was also pulled in. He'd been struggling with debts and had clashed with Victor weeks earlier over tuition funds. Could anger or desperation have driven him to follow his father into the vault? The family's grief had become a crime scene. As rumors spread, 3 theories dominated. The accidental death theory: Victor had entered alone, believing he could leave easily. The door jammed, and his arrogance cost him his life. The betrayal theory: someone close to him, family or colleague, had discovered his secret and sealed him inside, making sure his wealth was exposed only after his death. The punishment theory: Victor had enemies. A rival banker, a wronged investor, even a government investigator. Someone could have wanted him silenced, his secrets dragged into the light. But without a clear suspect, the vault remained both his tomb and a mystery box no one could unlock. The investigation left the Mallorys shattered. Elaine withdrew into silence. Emma distanced herself, disgusted by the legacy of lies. Daniel spiraled into addiction, haunted by the suspicion that everyone thought he might have killed his father. The fortune, once Victor's prized possession, became poison. Lawyers fought, banks laid claim, governments froze accounts. The family, who should have been united in grief, was instead divided by suspicion, greed, and shame. And just when the dust began to settle, detectives found something chilling in Victor's office desk. A sealed envelope marked only with a single word: confession. What was Victor hiding even in death? Was this the key to solving the mystery, or another lie from a man who had built his life on deception? Victor Mallory's body had been found inside a locked vault, surrounded by a fortune he'd hidden from his family. Fingerprints on the vault door hinted that someone else had been there. And then, in his desk drawer, detectives uncovered a sealed envelope marked with a single word: confession. The family gathered at the police station as investigators carefully unsealed the envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter dated 3 weeks before Victor's death. It began with a startling admission: "To whoever finds this, know that I have lived a life of 2 faces." The banker the world knows, and the man who has hidden everything from the people closest to me. Victor detailed his offshore accounts, the gold, the vault. He confessed that he had built the fortune not out of greed, but out of distrust. He wrote that he feared his family would squander it, fight over it, or betray him if they ever knew. And then came the line that shattered what was left of the Mallorys' trust: "If I die, let it be known that I chose to keep the money from Elaine, Emma, and Daniel, not out of hatred, but because I never believed they loved me more than what I could provide." The room fell silent. His words cut deeper than the discovery of the vault itself. With the confession made public, the battle began. Elaine's lawyers argued that Victor's fortune was marital property, and she was entitled to half. Emma and Daniel pushed for their shares, claiming the letter proved Victor's mental instability, not his true intent, but the banks and governments saw it differently. Prosecutors claimed portions of Victor's wealth were tied to financial crimes, illegal transfers, tax evasion, hidden assets. They moved to seize millions, leaving only fragments for family to fight over. The courtroom became a war zone. Lawyers sparred. Former colleagues testified. Every transaction Victor ever made was dissected. It wasn't just about money anymore. It was about exposing the life of a man who had built an empire of secrets. Though none of them were criminally charged, the Mallorys found themselves under the same spotlight as Victor. Elaine was accused of willful ignorance, living off her husband's wealth without asking questions. Emma was painted as resentful and greedy, her anger in interviews replayed by tabloids. Daniel was portrayed as unstable. His debts and addictions thrown into public view. The trial, like hearings, didn't just divide the inheritance. They destroyed reputations. The family was broken not just financially, but emotionally. Through it all, the image of Victor's death haunted every proceeding. Reporters reminded the world that he had died trapped in the same vault that held his fortune. His confession letter was read aloud so many times it became etched in the public's memory. I never believed they loved me more than what I could provide. The Mallory name became synonymous with secrecy, greed, and betrayal. Just when it seemed the case was closing, a new detail emerged. A banking associate came forward with a sworn statement. Victor had been planning to move his fortune again, this time into accounts under a new name. The associate swore Victor wasn't acting alone. Someone had been helping him in. Shadows, and the shocking part, that name was one the family recognized. Victor Mallory's confession had already torn his family apart, painting him as a man who never trusted his wife or children. In court, his fortune became a battlefield. But then, a banking associate stepped forward with a sworn statement. Victor hadn't been working alone. He was preparing to move his hidden fortune again, this time under a new name, and the associate swore someone close to him was helping. The name would shock the family to its core. The associate revealed that the person assisting Victor was none other than Elaine's brother, Richard, a quiet man who had always lingered in the background of family gatherings. To the Mallorys, he was Uncle Richard, friendly, soft-spoken, always willing to lend a hand, but to Victor he was an ally. Richard had the technical skills to create dummy corporations, and the legal knowledge to move funds through shell accounts. When confronted, Richard admitted he had helped Victor, but claimed he never knew the full extent of the fortune. According to him, Victor had promised he would be taken care of. For his silence, detectives pressed harder. Richard had access to the bank through Victor. He knew the vault system, and, most damning of all, his fingerprints partially matched those found on the outer handle of the vault door. Was Richard with Victor the night he died? Did he help him move the money, and then lock him inside, ensuring he wouldn't walk out alive? Richard denied it, insisting Victor was alive when he left. He swore he hadn't touched the door, that the fingerprints were contamination from another time, but suspicion was already cemented. The revelation split the Mallory family beyond repair. Elaine felt betrayed by her own brother, the man she had defended for years. Emma demanded Richard's arrest. Daniel, spiraling further, accused everyone, his mother, his uncle, even his sister, of knowing more than they admitted. The tabloids feasted on it. Banker's secret accomplice named, "Was he left to die?" Headlines painted Richard as the puppet master. The family's private grief had become a public spectacle. As the hearings dragged on, one question loomed larger than all the rest. Was Victor's death truly an accident? If it was, then he had been trapped by his own arrogance, locking himself in the vault he thought he controlled. If it wasn't, then Richard, or someone else, had sealed the door and left him to die. Without solid proof, prosecutors couldn't bring formal charges. Richard walked free, but under a cloud of suspicion that never lifted, and yet the story wasn't finished, because buried within the files seized from the vault, investigators found something even more startling than the confession letter: records of payments to a second, unknown accomplice. The name on those documents wasn't Richard. It was someone even closer to Victor. Victor Mallory died locked in the vault That hid his secret fortune. His wife discovered his confession letter. His brother-in-law Richard was exposed as an accomplice, and the family fractured under the weight of suspicion. But investigators uncovered something even more shocking: records of payments to a second accomplice, hidden deep in Victor's files, and this time the name was someone no one expected. The documents revealed transactions flowing quietly into an account under the name Emma Mallory, Victor's own daughter. Emma, the child who had screamed that her father loved money more than his family, was suddenly under the harshest spotlight. Investigators discovered that Victor had been sending her money for months, routed through dummy corporations. Emma admitted the truth. Victor had confided in her just a year before his death. He had promised her a share of his hidden empire, but only if she proved she was smarter than the rest of the family. Emma insisted she never went to the vault, never touched the door, and never wanted him dead. But to the public, the scandal was enough. She became the daughter who might have betrayed her father for his millions. As media frenzy swirled, prison rumors began to circulate from men who claimed to have once dealt with Victor in secret investments. One inmate swore Victor had ties to a shadowy syndicate, people who used the Harrington Bank to launder their money. Another claimed Victor's death wasn't an accident at all, but a message. He had outlived his usefulness, and the vault was chosen deliberately as his coffin. Others whispered darker theories, that Victor had staged his own death, that the bloated body was a stand-in, that somewhere offshore he lived under a new name, watching as his family destroyed itself over the money he left behind. No proof ever surfaced, but the rumors only deepened the legend. The Mallory family never recovered. Elaine lived in quiet isolation, her name forever stained by association. Daniel descended into addiction, haunted by suspicions that would never be resolved. Emma fled the country, leaving behind both the scandal and the whispers that she had been her father's chosen heir. Richard, the brother-in-law, lived under suspicion until his final days, never escaping the shadow of the fingerprints on that vault door. The fortune itself was divided, seized, and fought over until little remained. Wealth that Victor had spent decades protecting brought nothing but ruin to the very people he claimed to distrust. Today, the old Harrington vault is sealed again. Employees avoid it. Some say they still hear faint scratching on its iron walls when the building is quiet at night. Others believe Victor's ghost lingers there, trapped in the darkness, forever guarding the wealth that destroyed his family. But one thing is certain: Victor Mallory's story has become a chilling warning. A man who thought secrecy gave him strength. A man who believed wealth could protect him. A man who built a vault not just of iron and steel, but of lies, and in the end it became his coffin. Victor Mallory's death left behind more questions than answers. Was it arrogance, betrayal, or a conspiracy that reached far beyond his family? We may never know, but his story lives on, reminding us that sometimes the cages we build to protect our fortune can become the cages that destroy us. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share to help Murder Book 360 grow. Hit the bell icon so you never miss the next chilling case. Thank you for being part of the Murder Book 360 community, where every story reminds us truth is often stranger and darker than fiction.